Okay, once you have the new knuckles ready to go on, you just slide the axle through the bearing slot there. That nut gets torqued down to 180 foot-pounds. The tie rod end, I believe, is 40 if I'm not mistaken. And then the ball joint pinch bolt, frankly, I just kind of crank down with the impact. I always like to slide that back brake pad in there first because sometimes the pads don't quite like to sneak through there. Then I will install a rotor, which looks way bigger than our old ones, I would add. Huge increase in swept area on those. Put enough there to keep it in place, and then you can slide in the new front pad, and then after that you can go ahead and simply slip the caliper on over it. From that point, it's going to be time to install the new brake hoses. Okay, something I've forgotten about here since the last time I had to do a conversion like this. If you look, the hole, and it might not be relatively obvious here with the way I'm holding these, but perhaps it is. The hole for the banjo bolts are actually different, and by that I mean same size hole, same banjo bolt, but if you look at the one on the left, there's much less meat at the top above the hole than there is at the one on the right. So you got to change out brake hoses, and I had done this before, which is where I got this original brake hose. And if I'm not mistaken, I had to kind of grind down one of the corners here to get it to fit, because if I'm not mistaken, it's opposite. But you still have the key on the front there. I'm not sure exactly how good this is, but you've got the key on that side of it, so it'll still work just fine. I'm going to clean these off a little bit more before I reinstall them, but either way, not too bad. In the car here, ooh, don't know how well you can see it, but I just used a little bit of heat to warm that up and it came right off. Again, it's a nice fair weather car, so alright, we'll keep working here and get back to it. Alright, while the passenger side might have come off super easily, the driver's side was a little bit of a different story. I had to use heat on this a couple of times, and everything was kind of greasy in that area too, so I hit it with some carb cleaner. And if you're not aware, carb cleaner can be a bit flammable, and you might want to wait more than 5 to 10 seconds before hitting the recently carb cleaned area with your MAP gas torch. That does end in a little bit of a fire, but you know what? If you've got some good lung capacity, you can blow that fire right out. Not even a big deal. Now, another good tip is to always wear your safety glasses and maybe some hearing protection when you think you don't need it, because when you're heating up that fitting, a brake hose could theoretically explode and cause a very serious ear-ringing pop that'll flick sparks and also bits of flying embers and burning debris all over the place. So make sure you're protected. While all this may seem a little outrageous, it occurs to me that it's actually what's necessary in order to get some fittings loose. A small fire and then an explosion, and next thing you know, the fitting's coming off like it's no problem. From there, everything's straightforward and simple. Just make sure that you have your flare fittings connected well where the hard line meets the flexible brake hose. There is a clip there that you need to have reinstalled so that it doesn't vibrate around and cause a fatigue failure. Don't forget the 10mm bolt that goes into the strut, and make sure to crank them down nice and tight at the calipers, ideally using some new copper crush washers. Once you get the bottom side of everything all set, you can go ahead and remove the master cylinder. There are two 3/8 flare nuts up at the top there on the master cylinder, and then there are two 13mm nuts holding the ears of the master cylinder to the brake booster. The one thing you have to look out for with that is that on most of the cars, there is a bracket that holds the heater hoses and a couple other vacuum lines on occasion, and it is also attached to the inboard side of the master cylinder. So you'll pull off the initial nut, remove that bracket, and then remove the second nut that actually retains the master cylinder. Once you bench bleed the master cylinder, you can go ahead and reinstall it the same way, and it's time to bleed your brakes. Hopefully you put the bleeder screws of the calipers pointing up so you don't have any problems there.